Our scripture text this morning is found in Luke 13, beginning with verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to them, "Friend, who is to set me to be a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly. And he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God.'" A man living in Southern California was on his way to work one morning in his brand new BMW. Suddenly, the big one hit. The earth began to tremble under his wheels, and the car was swallowed by the earth. The man was seriously injured, but as he climbed out of the wreckage, he didn't even notice that his left arm had been cut off at the elbow. He just stood by the side of the road, viewing the wreckage and crying out, "Oh no, my Beamer, my Beamer!" A man who had witnessed the disaster said to him, "How can you be crying about your car? Don't you realize that your arm has been cut off?" The man looked down at horror at the missing limb and said, "Oh no, my Rolex, my Rolex." There is no question that we live in a materialistic society and that money is the driving force behind much of what happens in our daily lives. People who want to live a life based on spiritual values often find themselves struggling with the issue of money. They have to answer questions such as, how much is enough? What should I do with my money? Does God want me to have money? Can you be comfortably well off and still be spiritual? Should I give all my money to the poor? Should I give any of my money to the poor? What would Jesus do about money? When you read the Gospels, you may be surprised to find that Jesus spoke about this topic often. 16 of the 38 parables deal with how to handle money and possessions, and 10% of the verses deal with the subject of money. The Bible offers 500 verses on prayer, less than 500 verses on faith, but more than 2,000 verses on money and possessions. Since the Bible has so much to say about the subject, it is surprising we have so many misconceptions about money. Some of our erroneous ideas are based on misinterpretation of Scripture, but others come from the culture in which we live. So I'm going to quickly examine a few misconceptions. Misconception number 1. Money is the root of all evil. This quote has been attributed to the Bible, but it is in fact a misquote. Actually, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. 1 Timothy 6:10. There's a big difference between money being the problem and the love of money being the problem. Money by itself is neither good nor bad. It's our attitude toward money that determines its usefulness. Misconception number 2. God needs my money or the church will fail. Our God is not poor. He owns everything. When you give to God, you are not helping God out of a jam. In the book of Psalms, David quotes God as saying, "I have no need of a bull from your stall or of goats from your pens, for every animal in the forest is mine and the cattle on 1,000 hills." Psalm 50:10. Misconception number 3, having enough money will make me happy. The problem is that the target for enough keeps moving, and it usually keeps moving up the scale. Financial guru Ken Roberts said that when he first began building his fortune, he thought that $1 million was a magic number that would make him happy and eliminate all of his worries. When he became a millionaire, he realized that he needed $5 million to be happy and at peace. When he accumulated a net worth of $5 million, the target changed to $10 million. He finally realized that no amount would ever be enough. His peace of mind would have to come from something other than from his bank account. Misconception number 4. If I had enough money, I could do a lot of good. I read a survey recently of people who were asked a question, what would you do with $1 million? Actually, Rick asked that question as we went by the sign saying $182 million. What would you do if you had that kind of money? Nearly everyone in the survey said, I would give it some to charity, which reminds me of a long time ago I read this story about a kid who lost his Bible. And in place of the Bible, he found a lottery ticket. Cast a lottery ticket in, and he said, I'm going to give 10% to God and keep 90% for myself. And God said, oh no, I gave you that lottery ticket. 90% is mine. You can keep 10%. But now back to this. While it's true that most charities and churches are not in a position to turn down a donation, it's also true that as a church we have needs superseding our financial obligations. Money doesn't solve social problems. People solve social problems. Money doesn't spread the gospel. People do. Giving money is good, and we'll talk more about this in just a few minutes. It's not going to be ignored, but please understand, if you want to make an impact on the world, it requires something worth much more than money. It requires your time. And all of those people who worked yesterday on making the pasta and meatball dinner a success know that they put in time, not just money. Misconception number 5. God doesn't want me to have money. Some people teach that there is a certain spirituality in being poor. They refer to Jesus' command to the rich young ruler that he sell all he owned and give it to the poor. But remember, Jesus said this only once to a man who was obsessed with his money. He had other followers who appear to have been affluent. In the Old Testament, David, Solomon, Job, Abraham were all very wealthy. God doesn't insist that you become poor, but he does insist that you have the right attitude toward the money that you have. So what is the right attitude about money? Jesus said, watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Jesus said our greatest danger is becoming greedy. If you think only of stockpiling things for yourself and neglect your relationship with God and your obligations to others, you will ultimately self-destruct. Today we will look at 3 things you can do to guard against greed and to develop the attitude toward money that Jesus would want you to have. First of all, realize that money is not the most important thing in life. Universities are full of students who are pre-med or pre-law or working toward an MBA, not because they have a passion for that field, but because they believe their degree will enable them to earn a good living. You know what happens to many of these students? Years later, they find themselves in the workforce, earning a wonderful salary, yet dissatisfied with their careers and feeling too trapped to make a change. When Peyton Manning decided to play his senior year at the University of Tennessee and not enter the NFL draft, many people thought he was crazy to let this chance slip through his fingers. There are so many uncertainties in football. What if he was injured, or what if he had a bad season and lost his superstar status? What would happen to him then? In an interview on ESPN, an agent said this decision would cost Peyton millions of dollars and cause him to drop several positions in the draft. But Manning's response was, "There's people just don't get it. I wouldn't trade playing my senior year at Tennessee for anything in the world." Of course, the agent was wrong. Peyton went first in the draft, and his sticking by his guns did reap him positive benefits. People who make career choices, or any other choice for that matter, based solely on financial priorities, often find these decisions come back to haunt them. Money is a miserable master. When you let it guide the decisions you make, you will find that it leads to loneliness and isolation. Jesus said, "A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." There is more to life than making money or hoarding money. To the extent that we remember this, we can safeguard ourselves against greed. Secondly, learn to enjoy the financial blessings that you are given in life. No matter where you fall on the socioeconomic scale, there are some people who are above you and some people who are below you. I know too many people who are not able to appreciate what they have because they are so focused on what they don't have. True, there are people in this world who do not have the financial pressures that you have, and from your point of view, their life may seem to be easy and carefree. Maybe you think that's unfair. At the same time, there are those who do not have it as easy as you do. Instead of thinking about what is missing from your life, be grateful to God for everything that you do have. Orange County, California is the most affluent county in our nation. According to Money Magazine, the median income in Orange County is 80% above the rest of the country. Yet, when these residents were surveyed, the overwhelming response from the majority of residents was, "I need a little more." There are hundreds of thousands of the richest people of the world, and yet instead of enjoying their wealth, instead of being grateful for all that they do have, they are convinced that they need more. I don't want to sound like I'm picking on Californians. The fact is, this attitude is everywhere across our country. Solomon warned against this attitude. It is better to see what you have than to want more. Wanting more is useless, like chasing the wind. Ecclesiastes 6:9. Do you want to get rid of the "I never have enough" mentality and begin enjoying the financial blessings that you do have? Do you want to experience financial freedom? There is a way to do it. It's simple. but not really easy. It takes a little effort at first. Here it is. Live within your means. Spend less than you earn, and don't buy anything that you can't pay for with cash. Yes, you can use a credit card as long as you pay it off at the end of the month, but don't get yourself burdened by debt. Some of you may respond, that's impossible. The truth is, it is possible. The key to financial freedom is not to increase your income. It is to decrease your wants. The wealthiest person is the one who is satisfied with the least number of things. Jesus said, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. This means that we should strive to enjoy the things we have. Third, practice giving to others. In today's parable, this man's sin was not that he was successful. His sin was that he was selfish. He produced a good crop and thought only of himself. He neglected spiritual priorities. As a result, his soul was required of him that very night, and he never received any of what he had prepared for himself. Then Jesus said, this is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich toward God. It is no coincidence that the word miser and the word miserable come from the same root. God didn't bless you financially so that you could keep it all for yourself. When you try to hang on to anything, you lose the joy of abundance. You also miss out on the joy of being a blessing to other people. The only way to release this grip of materialism is to learn to give. Most people intend to be generous, but too often we put it off until we can afford it. For most of us, that day may never come because our expenses tend to rise with our income. It's easy for our entire paycheck to be consumed by necessities, in quotes. If we do not make a concentrated effort to start giving, then we'll procrastinate forever. Solomon warned us of this. The more you have, the more you spend, right up to the limits of your income. So what is the advantage of wealth? Except perhaps to watch it as it runs through your fingers. Ecclesiastes 5:11. This is why Solomon recommends that we become generous. Give generously, for your gifts will return to you later. Ecclesiastes 1:11. He who is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward him for what he has done. Proverbs 19:17. Jesus also told us, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:19. Jesus is teaching a basic principle of life. The secret to living is giving. Okay, it sounds like what I've already said, but I didn't remember putting that in there twice. Sometimes we put off giving because we do not have too much to give. Big givers tend to draw a lot of attention to themselves, and sometimes their magnanimous gifts make ours seem insignificant in comparison. Remember Ted Turner when he made the cover of Newsweek when he announced his contribution of $1 billion to the United Nations? I think it's safe to say that no one in this room will ever be in a position to give away that much money. I don't know that I want to be in that position. While I don't want to negate the value of his generosity, it should be pointed out that due to the tax benefits from the donation, Along with the fact that the gift is to be distributed over 10 years, the donation is not going to have an impact on his $3.2 billion net worth. Of course, he did reap public relations windfall from that announcement. Jesus recommended another way of giving. One day, when donations at the temple were being collected, many wealthy individuals were throwing in large amounts. To much fanfare, along came the poor widow, who gave 2 small copper coins, barely worth a penny. Jesus said to his disciples, "This poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all that she had to live on." Mark 12:43 and 44. Jesus is not saying that we should turn our backs on our responsibility to our children and to give all of our money away. He is saying that we should be willing to give until we feel it. On the subject of giving, C.S. Lewis said, "The only safe rule is to give more than we can spare. If our charities do not pinch or hamper us, I should say that we are too small." Found in Mere Christianity, Book 3, Chapter 3. On this subject, John Wesley said, "Earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can." Both of these great men understood the basic life principle. The secret to living is giving. So what would Jesus do about money? It's plain to see that his attitude toward money is different in many ways than ours. He's not against our having money. He just doesn't want money to have us. He warns us to be on the guard against greed, to watch out for the mentality of more, more, more. The best way to combat this is to recognize that money isn't everything, and to recognize that we already have much to be thankful for, and to discover that, again, the secret of living is giving. This will loosen the grip that materialism can have on your life. It will enable you to have control of your money without your money having control of you. I hope it's not too far-stretched for you to realize and accept that living is giving.